Hey, my name is Zach, and this is my Jesus story. I grew up in a Christian family. My parents are Christians, and they always encouraged me in my faith, and I always really loved Jesus and would pray all the time, would read my Bible. But to me, Jesus was basically just my best buddy. We'd have heaps of fun together and stuff, and I kind of thought, well, if I'm having fun, Jesus is having fun. And so in the early years of high school, started getting involved with drinking and drugs and partying and stuff, and kind of had this idea of, this is fun and I want to do these things, but really I knew it was wrong, but I was like, it's kind of a grey area. God doesn't really talk about some of these things, and so I kind of just hide myself from those areas in the scriptures. But really I was just defining good and evil myself. I was living a really double life. I had Jesus still in my life, but I was kind of putting him more in the back seat. I still identified myself as a Christian. If you'd asked me in front of all my friends if I was a Christian or not, I would have said, yeah, I'm a Christian. I would have proclaimed that. But my life wasn't really showing it because I had other things I was following. I wanted to be a good skater, and all my skater friends were really bad influences. I was pursuing music, and that was the same sort of thing. And it got to the point where I'd go to church on a Sunday, and I'd be encouraged to live more for God, but at the same time feel a bit guilty about what I was doing. And then Monday would come, and then I'd be back to doing the same old thing. And I started getting more deeper into that lifestyle. And then I kind of slowly pushed God more in the background, and I started praying less, was reading my Bible less, and kind of pushing God out of my life really. And I still felt guilt though the whole time, and I remember thinking to myself, I wish I wasn't born in a Christian family, because then I wouldn't have to have this guilt following me around. After a few years of living like this, I pretty much pushed Jesus right out of my life. I was just living for me. In year 12, there was one night in particular that really shook me. I was at a party, I was really high and really drunk, and I was having a really bad trip. And the last thing I remembered was being behind the wheel on the highway, swerving all over the place. And it wasn't looking very pretty. And I had a moment where I basically just saw in my life, wow, my life's going in the wrong direction really fast. And in that moment, I kind of called out to God. I remember saying to God, if I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll give you everything. And I basically blacked out after that. Can't remember anything else. But the next morning I woke up, and it was truly a miracle that I was alive, and I was in a very scared state. But I decided, alright, I've got to give everything to God. Let's do this. From that morning on, my whole life was just completely changed. That day, I had basically opened up my whole life before Jesus and said, Jesus, come into all my mess and everything. I know you're a God who forgives, and I asked for his forgiveness, and I really felt God's peace, and I felt his love in such a strong way, and all my guilt was taken away, and it was so surreal. And that whole month was still very difficult. I was still really scared, and I'd had some really bad effects from what had happened that night that were just really traumatizing me. But at the end of that month, I just felt complete peace, and God really walked me through that whole process. And I experienced his love in a way that I'd never experienced it ever before. I fell in love with the Bible, started reading it all the time, the Old Testament and the New Testament. I just wanted to know Jesus more, and I started listening to podcasts to explain that to me as well. I started praying all the time. All of a sudden I was like, wow, I can actually talk to Jesus all the time now. And so I was really praying without ceasing in everything. The best thing about being a Christian was the fellowship that I had with Jesus, and just knowing that God was always with me, and everywhere I went, I was just asking for guidance and knew that God was with me. The hardest thing about being a Christian was seeing all my friends that didn't know Jesus, because I knew what my life was like when I was ignoring him and without him in my life. And I just wanted my friends to see what it was like with having Jesus. So I started sharing Jesus with my friends and trying to be a light amongst them. And a lot of them didn't take it so well, but a lot of them actually took it really well. And I actually got to see a lot of my friends come to Christ, which was absolutely awesome. If you don't yet know Jesus, or maybe you're living that double life, I really want you to know that Jesus is powerful to save, and he will forgive us our sins. It says in 1 John 1:9, if we confess our sins to him, he is faithful and just and will forgive our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. I used to carry so much guilt and baggage, and it was really not a fun life. But in that moment when I invited Jesus into all of that mess, his salvation just really set me free. And that gift of salvation is open for all of us through what Jesus did on the cross. And I really challenge you to accept that gift.